We are back on Morning Line. It's our final segment. Our guest with us this morning is Clint Kelly, malpractice attorney, and timely that he could come on his regular visit with us this month during the Vaught trial, which continues today, by the way, and we'll be streaming live at newschannel5.com on Facebook. But we have more calls, and told Craig we'd take him as soon as we came back. Craig, good morning. Hi, Craig.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's on your mind?
This is an election year for Mr. Funk.
Yep.
Is this a politically motivated prosecution?
Okay, if you're asking me from the outside looking in, I would say no. I mean, there have certainly been, and you're right, politics play into these things, and you're right, it's an election year. But there are a lot of high-profile cases going on, and Vaught is not right up there where he's like, well, I'm going to do this because it's going to do me some political thing. I mean, we just got done with the Waffle House Travis Ranking trial. That was high-profile. And we've got another one scheduled next week that's a big one on the double murder outside the Dogwood Bar. What do you think? Are there politics involved? Is there another reason why you would bring charges in this case?
It's speculation. I mean, Craig may be right, may be wrong. I think one thing that's being lost in all this, and I know I keep coming back to it, is I don't think the public truly understands how this woman died. How horrible of a death it was.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever seen a movie called Serpent in the Rainbow?
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. The medicine that
the curare that paralyzes someone and they can't move, they can't speak.
But you're conscious.
But you're conscious
and you feel everything. You're not numb either.
That is the compelling reason why I believe this prosecution is going forward. This was not someone who just instantly died from a bad reaction to medication. This death is one of the most horrible ways that you can die, other than perhaps burning to death. And I don't know if Craig and Tom would have the same opinions if they understood how bad this death was for this lady.
Yeah. And Craig, just so you know, I mean, I talked to Glenn Funk personally about this, and I kind of did the same thing. I said, you know, General, come on, people make mistakes, and, you know, I mean, bringing charges in this case, and he just goes, Nick, you're right, and I understand that. But when you see what we present at trial, the number of reckless moves made by this woman, it just got to the level that it would be irresponsible not to call it reckless. That's exactly what it is, and it's reckless homicide. So he conceded. I mean, it had to get to an awful high level for him to decide to do this, is the way I take it. And I don't believe politics are involved in this case. No, Craig, you're right. Politics permeate everything.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say Craig's wrong about this because we're in a political season.
Yeah, that's right. And so I understand him asking that question, absolutely. Let's go to Nell. Nell, good morning. Hi, Nell.
Yes?
Yeah, go ahead. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm the spouse of a physician, and when he was a resident, this was back in the olden days when we had paper charts, one of his interns wrote the wrong medication, and the result of that, a patient died. But it was traced back to the fact that these were the days when interns and residents were on call every 24 hours, and it was just exhaustion. As a result of that, this occurring multiple times around the country, that program changed, and that had a direct impact upon how patients were treated, because you weren't dealing with exhausted physicians and the staff. We look at other things, such as the case that happened in Lebanon a couple of years ago, where a woman had a protection order against her husband, but he found her, killed her mother, and as a result of that, going back and looking at all the steps that failed through the police department, various police departments, different counties, in the legislature right now, multiple laws are going through the legislature this year dealing with those mistakes. I guess my question is, are we really going to benefit that much by punishing this nurse? What is going to be the runoff? Are we going to lose nurses? How is this going to impact the nursing industry? Or would we been better off looking at what were the reasons why these missteps occurred and this death was the end result? Sometimes I think punishing is not the answer, but looking at why.
I mean, she's right. The why, so this doesn't happen again, is the most important thing. What do you think?
Well, two things. First of all, the reason, the point Nell brought up was the original reason why I was apprehensive about this prosecution going forward, because I was concerned, what are the public policy considerations when you have a prosecution like this brought. And I get that. And that is an issue that concerns me no matter what happens in this trial. But again, we keep coming back to the point is the conduct is so bad and the consequences so horrid that there are times in life where there must be punishment.
Right.
Regardless of what the public policy considerations are.
Well, both things can happen. You can have punishment and hopefully address the public policy.
There is such a thing as justice. We as lawyers, that's what
Right.
we are trained to try to provide to people, and that's what the juries do. And so there are occasions where, you know, you have to go forward and seek justice regardless of what the public policy considerations are. Whether she should be punished or not, that's why we have juries.
Yeah. And maybe
You know,
yeah.
If the jury sees this the way Nell sees it, or the way Tom sees it, or the way perhaps Craig sees it, she's going to walk. You know, hey,
Yep.
I believe in the jury system.
Right.
That's why we have juries. They are the conscience of the community. On the other hand, if they look at this and say this is reckless, dangerous, unsafe behavior, and on the facts of this case, in this situation, it's reckless homicide, that's the jury's verdict.
Yep.
Whatever the public policy consideration, you can't always just say, I'm not going to bring a lawsuit or I'm not going to bring a prosecution because I'm worried about public policy considerations, because justice trumps that,
Yep.
in my opinion.
No, and I agree with you on that. And I'll tell you this, as we sit here and what we've heard just through one day, this is by no means an open and shut. I myself, you know, right now, the way I look at how much was missed, I think, wow, I mean, that's a strong case against her. But, you know, I think the points Peter brings up, and I'm going to want to hear the defense.
Sure.
I mean, so by no means am I thinking that she's going to necessarily be found guilty here. I'm open-minded on it, but I do understand why the district attorney brought charges.
I would not want to be a juror in this case. It would be so hard.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. They chose the jury in one day, pretty quickly on Monday, and they sat them. It's not sequestered, I don't believe. And they think the trial should conclude by the end of this week, and so we'll be following it, streaming it, and by the way, next time you come on, we'll have a verdict, of course, and we will certainly talk about. Remind folks where your office is and the such as a malpractice attorney.
Sure, I'm at 629 East Main Street in Hendersonville. 615-8 million is the phone number.
Can't forget
it's
that. There
easy
it is.
to remember.
Yep.
I take cases all across Tennessee. The types of cases I handle are these types of lawsuits, typically against hospitals where doctors or nurses made major medical mistakes that caused severe injuries. Certainly not all of my cases go to this degree of reckless conduct, but there are unsafe practices that cause severe injuries, and those are the types of lawsuits I take. Clients don't have to pay anything unless I win the case. They don't have to pay to finance the lawsuit. They call into my office, and my staff does an intake, and then I look at the case. And, like, for example, if I saw this, if I got an intake like this, it's a case I would take.
And the good thing, too, is if you don't, you explain to them why you can't.
Correct.
We're lucky to have one of the best to come on the show with us. Clint, take care, my friend.
It's great to see
It's good
you.
to be able to shake your hand now. We're past some of this. Clint Kelly will be on again next week, or next month, rather. Appreciate him coming on. We'll take a break. Programming note about tomorrow right after this.